I'm Madison Taylor, 26, and I need to tell you about the biggest mistake I ever made. Not buying my duplex in Austin, that was the smartest thing I'd ever done. The mistake was thinking family would respect what I'd built. Before we dive in, tell me what time it is where you are and which city you're listening from. I'd really love to know how far this story has traveled. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Let me take you back to June 2021. I was 23, fresh out of UT with a computer science degree and a job offer from a tech startup that paid more money than anyone in my family had ever seen. While my friends were blowing their paychecks on downtown apartments and bottle service, I was living in a 400 square foot studio that smelled like the Thai restaurant downstairs, saving every penny I could. See, I had a plan. Real estate. Everyone said I was crazy. You're too young, the market's too hot, wait until prices come down. But I'd done the math. I'd run the numbers 100 times on my laptop, sitting in that tiny studio with spreadsheets open until 2 a.m. Austin's rental market was booming, and I could see the opportunity everyone else was missing. I saved $60,000 in 2 years. $60,000. Do you know what that looks like when you're 23? Rice and beans for dinner most nights, no vacations, no new clothes, driving a 2009 Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door that I couldn't afford to fix. My coworkers thought I was broke, but I was building something. The duplex was in East Austin, a neighborhood that was just starting to turn. 2 identical units, each with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a small yard. The listing said it needed cosmetic updates, which was realtor speak for, "This place looks like it hasn't been touched since 1987. Beige carpet that had seen better decades, kitchen cabinets painted a color that could only be described as depression yellow, and wallpaper that belonged in a nursing home. I walked through that property on a sweltering June morning, the kind where Austin's heat hits you like opening an oven door. The seller's agent kept apologizing for the condition, but I could see past the ugliness. I saw rental income. I saw appreciation. I saw my future. The numbers worked. Market rent for each unit was $1,800 a month. That's $3,600 in monthly income against a mortgage payment of $2,200. After taxes, insurance, and maintenance reserves, I'd be cash flowing about $800 a month. Not life-changing money, but enough to prove the concept. More importantly, I'd be building equity while someone else paid my mortgage. I put in an offer that same day. Asking price, no contingencies. In Austin's 2021 market, you didn't mess around. 3 days later, I got the call. The house was mine. Closing day felt like Christmas morning. I remember sitting in that lawyer's office, signing paper after paper, my hand cramping from writing my name so many times. When they handed me the keys, I just stared at them. Heavy brass keys on a ring with a little blue tag that said 315 Maple Street. I owned something. At 23, I owned a piece of Austin, Texas. I moved into the left unit immediately and started renovating the right side. Every weekend, every evening after work, I was there with paintbrushes and power tools I'd bought from Harbor Freight. I pulled up that horrible carpet myself, revealing original hardwood floors that just needed refinishing. I painted over the depression yellow with a clean white that made the space feel twice as big. I ripped down the wallpaper, sanded the walls smooth, and painted them a warm gray that would photograph well for rental listings. My hands were constantly cut up from the work, my back ached from laying flooring, and I probably inhaled enough paint fumes to take years off my life. But when I stepped back and looked at what I'd created, the pride was overwhelming. This wasn't just a rental property, this was proof that I could build something from nothing. By October 2021, the right unit was ready. I listed it on Zillow for $1,800 a month and had 20 applications within 3 days. I chose a young professional couple, both teachers, excellent credit, references that checked out. They moved in November 1st with a security deposit and first month's rent in hand. That first rental check felt like winning the lottery. $1,800 made out to Madison Taylor. Not to my boss, not to some corporation, but to me, for property I owned that I'd fixed up with my own hands. I deposited it on my phone while sitting in my car outside the bank, and I swear I took a screenshot of the transaction just to prove to myself it was real. I was a landlord, a property owner. At 23, I'd done something most people spend decades working toward. I had tenants paying my mortgage while I built equity in Austin's exploding real estate market. The plan was working exactly like I'd calculated.
Oh, honey, we can't ask you for money. I don't know what we're gonna do. But she was asking. Not directly, but the subtext was clear. I ran the numbers in my head. 3 months back rent, plus whatever they needed to get current on utilities, probably $5,000 minimum. I had it. My emergency fund could cover that without breaking my investment plans. Then I had a better idea. A solution that would help everyone and keep my cash reserves intact. Mom, what if I told you Emma and Tyler could live in my duplex? The right unit is going to be empty next month. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Madison, sweetie, we couldn't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. They can stay there rent-free until Dad gets back to work and you guys are stable again. Just temporarily, until everyone gets back on their feet. I could hear her crying again, but relief this time instead of despair. Are you sure? That's such a generous offer. It's family, I said, echoing something I'd heard my whole life. Family helps family. We talked logistics. Emma and Tyler could move in March 1st when my current tenants relocated to Dallas. I'd cover utilities too, water, electric, internet. All they had to worry about was getting their lives together. When I called Emma to explain the arrangement, she was so grateful she started crying too. Madison, you're literally saving our lives. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just use this time to get stable. Maybe Tyler can find some consistent work. You can look for something full-time. Think of it as a chance to reset. Absolutely. This is exactly what we need. 6 months, maybe less, and we'll be out of your hair. 6 months. That seemed reasonable. My rental income analysis could handle a 6-month vacancy, especially with the promotion bump, and there was something appealing about the idea of helping my sister the way I wished someone had helped me when I was struggling to save for the down payment. Emma and Tyler moved in on March 5th, 2022. I helped them carry boxes up the front steps, watching Emma's face light up as she walked through the renovated space. Madison, this is beautiful. I can't believe you did all this work yourself. The unit did look good. I'd finished the hardwood floors to a warm honey color, painted the walls a soft gray that made the rooms feel larger, upgraded the kitchen with white subway tile and butcher block counters. It was nicer than anywhere Emma had ever lived. Thank you, she said, hugging me tight. I promise we'll take good care of it.
Tyler was less effusive, but seemed grateful enough, nodding his approval as he looked around. This is cool, Madison. Really appreciate it. They'd brought minimal furniture, a mattress, a small couch, some clothes. I told them they could use anything in the unit that I'd left behind, a dining table, some chairs, basic kitchen supplies. Just make yourselves at home, I said. Those were the last words I said before unknowingly opening the door to 3 years of exploitation that would nearly destroy my relationship with my family and my faith in the basic goodness of people. The first month was blissful. Emma would text me photos of dinners she'd cooked in the kitchen, thanking me again for the opportunity. Tyler was actually looking for work, or at least that's what Emma told me. When I walked past their unit to get to my front door, I could hear normal apartment sounds, TV, conversation, the occasional laugh. I felt good about my decision. This was what family was supposed to do for each other. I had resources, they needed help, and I was in a position to provide it without really sacrificing anything. The lost rental income stung a little, but knowing my sister had a safe place to live made it worthwhile. My parents called every few days to thank me. Dad's workers' comp case was slowly moving through the system, and Mom had picked up extra hours at Target. They were confident they'd be back on their feet soon, and then Emma and Tyler could find their own place. Everything was going according to plan. Emma was job hunting, Tyler was supposedly networking in Austin's music scene, and my duplex was serving its purpose as both an investment property and a family safety net. I should have paid more attention to the details. I should have noticed that Emma's job hunting stories were vague, that Tyler's music networking seemed to involve a lot of late-night parties. I should have established clearer boundaries from the beginning, put everything in writing, set specific timelines and expectations. But I was naive. I thought good intentions were enough. I thought family meant we all wanted the same thing, for everyone to succeed and be independent. I was about to learn that some people see generosity not as a gift, but as evidence that you're a resource to be exploited.
6 months into the arrangement, what was supposed to be temporary had somehow become permanent without anyone actually deciding it should be. It was September 2022, and I was starting to feel the financial pinch. My duplex calculations had been based on rental income that was no longer coming in, and my savings account was slowly shrinking as I covered the utilities for both units. But every time I thought about bringing up the timeline, something stopped me. Emma seemed to be trying. She'd gotten a job at a trendy boutique in South Austin that paid $14 an hour for about 25 hours a week. It wasn't much, but it was progress. Tyler claimed he was building his brand as a musician, which apparently involved playing open mic nights at coffee shops and posting videos on Instagram that got about 12 likes. The first real sign of trouble came on a Tuesday night in late September. I was in my unit, trying to focus on a work project, when the music started. Not just any music. Tyler's guitar, amplified through what sounded like a full PA system, coming through the shared wall between our units. It was 10:30 p.m. I waited 20 minutes, thinking maybe it was just a quick practice session. The sound got louder. I could hear other voices now, laughter, the unmistakable sounds of a small party happening next door. I texted Emma, "Hey, can you ask Tyler to keep it down? I have an early meeting tomorrow." No response. At 11:45, I gave up and went to bed with earplugs. The music finally stopped around 1 a.m. The next morning, Emma texted back. "Sorry, Tyler had some musician friends over. We lost track of time. Won't happen again." But it did happen again. 2 weeks later, then the week after that. Each time I'd text politely asking them to keep it down. Each time Emma would apologize and promise it wouldn't happen again. But the apologies were getting shorter, less sincere. "Sorry, Madison, but Tyler's building connections in the music scene. This is important for his career." Career? As if playing guitar badly for 5 drunk friends at midnight was a career. The noise wasn't the only problem. I started noticing things when I walked past their unit to get to my front door. Beer bottles in the front yard that hadn't been there the day before, cigarette butts in the flower beds I'd carefully planted, and a smell coming from their unit that definitely wasn't just cooking. One morning, I found a pizza box and 2 empty wine bottles on my front porch. Not their porch, mine. When I knocked on their door to ask about it, Tyler answered in boxers and a stained t-shirt at 2 p.m. "Oh, hey, Madison. Yeah, we had some friends over last night. Must have gotten mixed up about which porch was which." He didn't apologize. He didn't offer to clean it up. He just shrugged like it was a minor inconvenience that I had happened to notice. I cleaned it up myself rather than make it a big deal. Family helps family, right? The breaking point for my patients came in October. I was coming home from work and noticed my garden hose had been dragged around to their side of the property. When I followed it, I found Tyler washing his beat-up Honda Civic in the driveway, using my water and leaving muddy puddles all over the concrete I'd pressure washed just the weekend before. "Tyler," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, "that's my hose." "Oh, cool. Emma said it would be fine to borrow it. I'll put it back when I'm done."
Emma said it would be fine became a phrase I heard a lot over the next few months. My Netflix password, my Amazon Prime account, my Wi-Fi network that I was paying for, all things Emma had apparently given Tyler permission to use without asking me first. When I finally worked up the courage to address the boundary issues, I called Emma instead of confronting her in person. Confrontation had never been my strong suit, and I was hoping a gentle conversation would reset expectations. We need to talk about some house rules. The noise at night, using my stuff without asking, it's becoming a problem. Her response caught me off guard. Madison, we're really grateful for everything you're doing, but we're not children. We don't need house rules. We're adults living in our home. Their home, not my property that I was letting them use for free. I understand that, but I'm living right next door. And look, I get that you're stressed about money or whatever, but we're doing our best here. Tyler's career is really starting to take off, and I'm working as much as the boutique will give me hours. We just need a little more time. More time. The temporary arrangement that was supposed to last 6 months was already at 8 months. And now Emma was asking for more time while simultaneously telling me I had no right to set boundaries on my own property. I should have been firmer. I should have said, this is my duplex, these are the rules, and if you can't follow them, you need to find somewhere else to live. But the family guilt was too strong. Mom had been so relieved when I offered the arrangement, and Dad was still fighting the workers' comp case. The last thing I wanted was to be the daughter who kicked her sister out during a family crisis. So, I compromised. Again. Okay, but can we at least agree on quiet hours? No music or parties after 10 p.m. on weeknights? Sure, we can try to keep it down.
Try to keep it down, not, yes, we'll respect your need for sleep, but we can try. That phone call set the tone for the rest of their tenancy. Every boundary I tried to set was met with pushback, guilt, or empty promises that were forgotten within days. When I asked them to clean up after their friends, Emma reminded me how grateful I should be that they were taking care of the property while I was at work. When I mentioned that the electric bill had doubled since they moved in, Tyler pointed out that I made good money in tech and could afford it. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The worst part was how they'd turned my generosity into evidence of my obligation to continue being generous. Because I'd offered them free rent, they reasoned, I must not need the money. Because I'd said they could make themselves at home, they acted like they owned the place. By December 2022, 9 months into the arrangement, I was starting to dread coming home. My sanctuary, the property I'd worked so hard to buy and renovate, felt like it was being slowly destroyed by people who saw my kindness as weakness. But I still didn't have the courage to set a firm move-out date. Christmas was coming, and the thought of telling my sister she had to find a new place during the holidays made me feel like the worst person in the world. So I decided to wait until after the new year. Just a few more weeks, and then I'd have a serious conversation about timeline and expectations. I had no idea that those few more weeks would turn into 2 more years of escalating disrespect, property damage, and the slow realization that my sister didn't see me as family at all. She saw me as a mark. By 2023, I'd become a stranger in my own home. What started as occasional parties had escalated into my duplex becoming the unofficial hangout spot for every wannabe musician and unemployed 20-something in East Austin. Emma had quit her boutique job in January, claiming the manager was toxic and she needed to focus on her mental health. Tyler's music career had evolved into playing the same 4 chords loudly at all hours while high school dropouts crashed on my couch. My neighbor Jennifer Washington knocked on my door on a Tuesday morning, holding her coffee mug and looking exhausted. Madison, I hate to be that neighbor, but we need to talk. Jennifer was a successful real estate agent who owned several properties in the area.
which was also one of the few people who knew I was letting Emma live rent-free, which made this conversation even more humiliating. The party last night went until 3 a.m. My bedroom shares a wall with their unit, and I couldn't sleep. This is the 4th time this month. I wanted to crawl into a hole. Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I'll talk to them. Madison, you're a property owner now. You can't let tenants destroy your investment or disturb the neighborhood. If this continues, I'll have to file noise complaints with the city. Tenants. That's what Emma and Tyler were, even though they weren't paying rent. The realization hit me like a slap. When I confronted Emma about the parties, she laughed. Madison, you're being dramatic. We had like 6 people over. It's not our fault the walls are thin. 6 people had left beer bottles in my flower beds, burned a hole in the carpet with a cigarette, and somehow managed to break the bathroom mirror. When I pointed out the damage, Emma shrugged. Accidents happen. It's just stuff, Madison. You make good money. Just stuff. The property I saved 2 years to buy, renovated with my own hands, was just stuff to her. Tyler emerged from the bedroom at 2 p.m. eating cereal from my bowl with my spoon. Hey, Madison, the Wi-Fi's been spotty. Can you call the company? The audacity was breathtaking. He was demanding I fix internet service he wasn't paying for, using dishes he'd never washed, while wearing yesterday's clothes because he hadn't done laundry in weeks. My girlfriend Alex came over that evening and found me crying in my kitchen. I've been dating Alex for 8 months, and she'd watched my stress level skyrocket as Emma and Tyler's behavior escalated. Madison, this has to stop. You're destroying your health for people who don't respect you. I said, they're family. The same excuse I'd been using for months. Family doesn't treat you like a servant. Family doesn't trash your property and demand you fix it. Family doesn't keep you awake until 3 a.m. on work nights. Alex was right, but admitting it meant acknowledging I had made a massive mistake. It meant confronting the fact that my generosity had been weaponized against me. The breaking point was still 6 months away, but the foundation was cracking. Every day brought new violations, new demands, new evidence that Emma saw me not as her sister, but as an endless source of free housing, utilities, and maintenance service. When I tried to set boundaries, Emma would call Mom crying about how mean I was being during her difficult time. Mom would call me within hours, guilt-tripping me about being patient with family. The manipulation was so smooth, I barely recognized it happening. By the end of 2023, I'd spent nearly 2 years subsidizing Emma and Tyler's lifestyle while watching my investment property slowly deteriorate. The hardwood floors I'd refinished were scratched and stained. The walls I'd painted were marked with scuffs and nail holes. The bathroom I'd updated reeked of cigarettes, despite their promises to smoke outside. I was paying for the privilege of being disrespected in my own home. And somehow, I was still the bad guy for not being grateful that they were taking care of the place. March 2024 was supposed to be a good month. I'd been promoted to senior software engineer, which came with a $15,000 raise and the opportunity to attend a tech conference in San Francisco. For the first time in 2 years, I was excited about something that had nothing to do with my family drama. I left for the conference on a Wednesday morning, reminding Emma and Tyler to keep things quiet while I was gone. Emma rolled her eyes like I was being paranoid. Madison, we're not children. We can handle 3 days without supervision. I should have known better. The call came Friday night while I was at a networking dinner in downtown San Francisco. Unknown Austin number, which I almost didn't answer. Ma'am, this is Officer Rodriguez with Austin Police Department. We responded to a noise complaint at 315 Maple Street. Are you the property owner? My stomach dropped. Yes, that's my duplex. What happened? Large party, probably 40 to 50 people. Neighbors called multiple times about noise, public urination, and possible drug activity. We broke it up around 2 a.m., but there was significant property damage visible from the street. 40 to 50 people. In my duplex. The property I'd bought with every dollar I had saved,
renovated with my own hands, that was supposed to be my stepping stone to financial independence? Were there any arrests? No arrests, but we issued citations for noise violations and public intoxication. Property owner is responsible for the fines. Property owner. Me! I was responsible for cleaning up Emma's mess, literally and legally. I caught the first flight home Saturday morning, my stomach churning with anxiety the entire trip. When I pulled into my driveway, the evidence was everywhere. Beer bottles and red Solo cups scattered across both front yards. A cigarette burn in my porch railing. Someone had vomited in my flower beds. The inside was worse, much worse. 2 holes punched in the living room wall, wine stains across the carpet I'd spent a weekend installing. The bathroom mirror cracked with glass shards still in the sink. Someone had used permanent marker to write Emma's house on the bedroom wall. Emma emerged from the bedroom around noon wearing sunglasses indoors and moving like every step hurt. "Madison, you're back early. How was your conference?" I stood there, surrounded by thousands of dollars in damage, holding a citation for $500 in city fines, and she was asking me about my conference like nothing had happened. "Emma, what the hell is this?" "Oh, we had a few friends over last night. It got a little wild, but it's nothing major. You can probably fix most of this stuff yourself, right?" Nothing major. Thousands in damage was nothing major because she wasn't the one paying for it. A few friends? The police said 40 people. They issued citations. The police were being dramatic, and honestly, Madison, you're being dramatic too. It's just a house, you make good money in tech, you can afford to fix it. Just a house. My investment property, my first step toward financial independence, my proof that hard work and sacrifice pay off, was just a house to her. That's when Tyler wandered out, shirtless and hungover, surveying the damage like he was seeing it for the first time. "Yeah, it got pretty crazy, but hey, Madison, you should have seen it. Your place was the talk of East Austin last night. We're basically famous now." Famous? They'd turned my property into Party Central for unemployed losers, cost me thousands in damage and fines, and Tyler thought we should celebrate because we were famous? I sat down on my couch, the same couch where strangers had been drinking and doing drugs 12 hours earlier, and finally accepted what Alex had been trying to tell me for months. Emma didn't see me as her sister. She saw me as a resource to exploit. Every thank you had been manipulation. Every family helps family had been emotional blackmail. Every promise to do better had been a lie to buy more time. I pulled out my phone and Googled eviction lawyer, Austin, Texas. It was time to stop being generous and start being a landlord. Monday morning, I sat in the office of Patricia Hendricks, a property law attorney that Jennifer had recommended. The consultation fee was $300, but after seeing my duplex looking like a crime scene, I would have paid $3,000. "Tell me about the rental agreement," Patricia said, reviewing the photos I'd taken of the damage. "There isn't one. They're my sister and her boyfriend. I let them stay there rent-free as a family favor." Patricia looked up from the photos. "Miss Taylor, family or not, they're your tenants. Texas law requires proper notice for eviction even without a lease. You'll need to serve them with a 30-day notice to quit." 30 days felt like an eternity, but Patricia explained that without following proper legal procedures, Emma could drag the eviction out for months in court.
"I'll prepare the paperwork. But Madison, you need to understand, this is going to get ugly. Family evictions always do." That afternoon, I met with my colleague Michelle Rodriguez, who owned 3 rental properties around Austin. I needed to understand what I'd lost by letting Emma stay rent-free for 3 years. Michelle pulled up rental comps on her laptop. "Madison, a 2-bedroom in East Austin has been going for $2,200 a month since late 2022. Before that, probably $1,800 to $2,000? I did the math on my phone. 3 years of lost rental income, approximately $72,000. Plus, utilities I'd been covering, another $8,000. Property damage, at least $5,000, probably more. Emma's temporary stay had cost me over $80,000. The real loss is opportunity cost,
Michelle continued. That rental income could have helped you buy a second property. You'd be building equity on two investments instead of subsidizing your sister's lifestyle. Two investments. I could have been twice as wealthy if I'd never answered that phone call from Mom. The conversation that shattered my remaining illusions happened Wednesday evening. I was venting to my coworker James about the eviction process when he said something that stopped me cold. Wait, why don't you just raise Emma's rent instead of evicting her? I know family discounts can get complicated, but if she's been paying $1,200 for 3 years, bumping it to market rate might solve the problem. James, Emma doesn't pay rent. She's been living there for free. He stared at me. Free? But she told everyone at the company barbecue last year that you charge her $1,500 a month. She was complaining about how expensive Austin rent is, even with family helping out. The room started spinning. She what? Yeah, she said you give her a small family discount, but she still pays most of market rate. She made it sound like you were making good money off her. Emma had been lying, not just to me, but to everyone. While I was subsidizing her lifestyle to the tune of $80,000, she was telling people I was her landlord, collecting rent, profiting off family. I called my cousin Sarah that night, my hands shaking as I dialed. Sarah, I need to ask you something weird. Has Emma ever mentioned paying me rent? Oh, yeah, all the time. She's always complaining about how much you charge her. Aunt Susan feels terrible that you're taking so much of Emma's income, especially since she's struggling. My own mother thought I was charging Emma rent. My family thought I was a greedy landlord exploiting my sister's financial difficulties. The betrayal was complete. Emma hadn't just taken my money, my property, and 3 years of my life. She'd stolen my reputation, poisoned my family relationships, and turned my generosity into evidence of my greed. I hung up with Sarah and opened my laptop. Patricia had sent me the eviction paperwork. 30-day notice to quit. Legal, official, and final. I printed 3 copies, one for Emma, one for Tyler, and one for me to frame after they were gone. 3 years of being exploited was enough. Time to remind my sister who actually owned this property. The eviction papers sat in my purse like a loaded gun as I walked up to my parents' front door that Sunday evening in March. Mom had organized a family dinner just to catch up, she had said, but I knew Emma had orchestrated this. She could sense something was changing, and family dinners were her favorite stage for emotional manipulation. Uncle Tommy Wilson was already there, nursing a beer and holding court about his restaurant success. Aunt Grace Millers sat at the kitchen counter helping Mom with appetizers. Emma and Tyler lounged in the living room like they owned the place, which was painfully ironic given the circumstances. I'd planned to serve the papers after dinner, privately. Let Emma save face while still getting the message. But Uncle Tommy had other plans. Madison, we need to talk about this rent situation with Emma. My blood turned to ice. What rent situation? Don't play dumb, kiddo. Emma told us how much you're charging her for that little duplex of yours. $2,200 a month for family? That's highway robbery. The room silenced. Mom stopped slicing bread. Dad looked confused. Emma's face had gone completely white, but she was trapped in her own lie. $2,200, I repeated slowly. Market rate for a 2-bedroom in East Austin, Tommy continued, warming to his subject. I get that you're running a business, but bleeding your own sister dry? That's cold, Madison. Real cold. Aunt Grace looked up from her salad. I thought Emma was staying there temporarily while she got back on her feet. 3 years of temporary, Tommy snorted, and Madison's been collecting rent the whole time. No family discount, no help during Emma's rough patch. Just profit over people. I could feel my heart pounding as the full scope of Emma's deception hit me. She hadn't just lied about paying rent, she'd turned me into the villain of her story. While I was subsidizing her lifestyle, she was painting me as a greedy landlord exploiting family. Emma, I said quietly, do you want to tell them, or should I? Emma's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. Madison, let's not do this here. Do what here? Tell the truth? I stood up and pulled the eviction papers from my purse.
Uncle Tommy, would you like to see the rental agreement where Emma pays me $2,200? Tommy grabbed the papers, his confidence wavering as he read, This is an eviction notice.
For non-payment of rent, I continued, because Emma has never paid me a single dollar. Not one, for 3 years. The silence was deafening. Mom dropped the bread knife. Emma? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. I can explain, Emma started. Can you explain $72,000? I cut her off. Because that's what 3 years of market rent would be. That's what you supposedly owe me, according to your own lies. Tommy's face had gone red. Emma, you told me... I never said I paid rent. Emma's voice was shrill, desperate. I said Madison charges market rate, which she would if I wasn't family. The rationalization was breathtaking. She'd technically told the truth while creating a completely false impression. Madison charges market rate, I repeated, but Emma gets the family discount of 100% off. And instead of being grateful, she tells everyone I'm profiting off her. Mom finally found her voice. Madison, Emma said you were charging her. Mom, Emma quit her job 2 years ago. Tyler hasn't worked a day since he moved in. They've been living rent-free while throwing parties that damage my property and cost me thousands in repairs. I pulled out my phone and showed them photos of the March party aftermath. This is what your struggling daughter did to my duplex last weekend while I was at a work conference. Aunt Grace was studying the eviction papers. Madison, you've been covering all their expenses? Rent, utilities, maintenance? Everything for 3 years, while Emma told everyone I was making money off her. Tyler, who'd been silent through the whole confrontation, finally spoke up. Look, we never asked for charity. You never asked? I laughed and it came up bitter. You used my Netflix password, my Amazon Prime, my Wi-Fi. You washed your car with my garden hose. You ate food from my kitchen and broke my dishes. What exactly did you pay for, Tyler? The room erupted. Tommy was apologizing profusely. Mom was crying. Dad was demanding answers from Emma. And Aunt Grace was asking pointed questions about the financial timeline. Emma made one last desperate play. Madison, you're embarrassing me in front of the whole family. I'm embarrassing you? I stood up, the paper shaking in my hand. You've been lying about me for 3 years. You took my generosity and weaponized it against me. You made our entire family think I was exploiting you while I was actually subsidizing your life. We're family, Emma shouted. Family doesn't evict family. Family doesn't lie to family either, I shot back. Family doesn't destroy property and demand someone else fix it. Family doesn't take $80,000 and call it charity. I threw the eviction papers on the table. You have 30 days, Emma. 30 days to find a place you can actually afford because the free ride is over. The silence that followed was broken only by Mom's quiet crying and the sound of Tyler muttering about how this is so unfair. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Oh, and Emma, if you're going to keep telling people I charge rent, you might want to start actually paying it. I left them there with the truth scattered across the dinner table like broken glass, finally free of the lies that had been poisoning my family for 3 years. The week after the dinner explosion, my phone became a battlefield. Emma launched a full-scale manipulation campaign that would have impressed a political operative. It started with the tearful voicemails. Madison, I'm sorry I didn't handle things perfectly, but kicking me out is cruel. I have nowhere to go. Please, can we talk like adults? When I didn't respond, the narrative shifted to anger. Text messages calling me heartless and selfish, claiming I was destroying the family over money. She posted on social media about learning who your real family is when times get tough, accompanied by crying selfies that got dozens of sympathetic comments. My favorite was the Instagram story showing her packing boxes with the caption, "When your own sister chooses greed over family, heartbreak, #homeless." The girl who'd been living rent-free for 3 years was claiming homelessness because she finally had to pay for housing like every other adult on the planet. Tyler predictably abandoned ship immediately. By Wednesday, his stuff was gone, and Emma was posting about learning who really loves you and fake people showing their true colors. Apparently, 3 years of free housing hadn't bought Tyler's loyalty past the first sign of actual consequences. Mom called Thursday morning, her voice carefully neutral. Madison, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Mom, what part was misunderstood? The part where Emma never paid rent or the part where she lied about it for 3 years? She's scared, honey. She doesn't know where she's going to live. She's 24 years old with no dependents and no job. Maybe this will motivate her to find employment. That's harsh, Madison. Harsh? Expecting my adult sister to support herself is harsh, but lying about me to our entire family was just a misunderstanding? The real turning point came Friday when Aunt Grace called. Unlike everyone else, Grace had actually done her homework. Madison, I've been thinking about the numbers you mentioned. If Emma was really paying market rent, she'd need to make about $6,600 a month gross to afford it. But her boutique job was maybe $1,500 a month before she quit? That's some solid math, Aunt Grace.
It gets better. I asked your mother how Emma was supposedly affording the rent on that income. Susan said Emma had been struggling but managing with help from Tyler's music income and occasional family assistance. I laughed despite myself. Tyler's music income. He made maybe $300 in 2 years busking downtown. The numbers never added up, Madison. I should have questioned it sooner. Emma's been playing us all. Having Aunt Grace on my side felt like winning the lottery. Grace was the family's financial expert, the one everyone trusted with money questions. If she said Emma's story didn't make sense, people would listen. There's something else, Grace continued. I called the boutique where Emma used to work. She didn't quit because the manager was toxic. She was fired for stealing from the register. The hits just kept coming. Emma hadn't just been lying about paying rent, she'd been lying about everything. But Emma wasn't finished fighting. Saturday brought her masterpiece of manipulation, a group text to the entire extended family, including cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Family, I need your help. Madison is evicting me with 30 days notice because I can't afford to pay her the full market rent she's been charging. I know she's successful and doesn't need the money, but she says business is business. I've never asked the family for handouts, but I'm facing homelessness. If anyone can help with a deposit on a new place or just emotional support during this difficult time, I would be so grateful. Love you all. The message was a masterclass in manipulation. Just enough truth to sound believable, just enough lies to paint me as the villain. And that line about never asking for handouts, while literally asking for handouts, was chef's kiss perfect. My cousin David called within an hour. Madison, I had no idea you were struggling financially. If you need help with the mortgage, maybe the family could pitch in instead of evicting Emma. I was struggling financially because I'd been giving Emma free housing for 3 years. David, Emma has never paid me rent, not once. She's been living there for free for 3 years. But the text says you've been charging her. Emma lies, David. She's been lying about this for 3 years. One by one, I had to call family members and explain the truth. Some believed me immediately. Others needed Aunt Grace to walk them through the financial impossibilities of Emma's story. A few seemed determined to believe Emma's version because it was more dramatic. But the momentum was shifting. Uncle Tommy called Sunday night to apologize again and offered to help me find good tenants for the duplex. Cousin Sarah sent a long text about how she'd always suspected something was off about Emma's finances. By the end of the week, Emma's support network had crumbled. The truth was too obvious once people actually looked at the numbers. A girl making minimum wage, part-time, couldn't afford $2,200 in rent, no matter how you tried to rationalize it. Emma's last desperate move was showing up at my workplace Monday morning, crying in the lobby, and asking the receptionist to get me. When I came downstairs, she was surrounded by tissues and sympathy from my coworkers. Madison, please, can we just talk? I'll pay you back everything, I swear. Just give me more time. More time. The same request she'd been making for 3 years. Emma, you have 3 more weeks. Use them to find a job and an apartment you can actually afford. But where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I walked back to the elevator, leaving Emma with her audience and her crocodile tears.
My coworkers could think whatever they wanted. I was done being responsible for other people's poor choices. The eviction notice had 21 days left, and for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't going to back down. The final showdown came 3 weeks later at Mom and Dad's house. I hadn't planned to be there, but Aunt Grace had called an emergency family meeting to present her financial investigation into Emma's claims. Grace, being an accountant, decided to treat Emma's lies like a fraud case with spreadsheets and documentation. When I walked into the living room, Emma was already in full victim mode, surrounded by tissues and wearing the kind of outfit that screamed, "Poor struggling daughter." Thrift store sweater, no makeup, hair in a messy bun. She really committed to the performance. Uncle Tommy was there looking embarrassed. Cousin David had driven down from Dallas. Even some extended family I rarely saw had shown up, drawn by the drama of Emma's supposed homelessness crisis. Aunt Grace got her laptop set up like she was giving a corporate presentation, which honestly wasn't far from the truth. Before we discuss Emma's housing situation, I think everyone needs to understand the actual facts. She pulled up her first spreadsheet. Emma claims she's been paying Madison market rent. Market rent for a 2-bedroom in East Austin ranges from $1,800 to $2,400 monthly, depending on the year. Right, and Madison's been charging me $2,200 since 2022. Emma, your boutique job paid $14 an hour for approximately 25 hours per week. After taxes, that's maybe $1,200 monthly. Tyler's documented income from his music was approximately $300 over 2 years total.
The room was dead silent as Grace clicked to her next slide. To afford $2,200 in rent, financial advisors recommend your gross monthly income be at least $6,600. Emma's combined household income was never more than $1,500 monthly, and that's before she quit her job. Mom was staring at the screen like it was written in hieroglyphics. Grace, I don't understand. It means Emma couldn't afford the rent she claimed she was paying. Mathematically impossible. Grace clicked again. Furthermore, I contacted Emma's former employer. She wasn't laid off due to a toxic work environment. She was terminated for register theft. Emma's face went white. They can't tell you that. They can when I explain I'm investigating a potential fraud case involving family finances. The word fraud hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Grace was treating this like the crime it actually was. 3 years of lying to family members to cover up financial exploitation. Madison has been providing free housing, utilities, internet, and maintenance for 3 years. The total value of this assistance exceeds $80,000. Uncle Tommy whistled low. $80,000? Plus opportunity cost, Grace continued. Madison could have collected rent and used that income to purchase additional investment properties. The compound financial impact of Emma's deception likely exceeds $100,000. $100,000. The number hit the room like a bomb. Emma made her final desperate play. Madison, you owe me for all the emotional support I gave you growing up, for being there when you were the weird, quiet kid who couldn't make friends. You were lucky to have me as a sister. The manipulation was so blatant it was almost impressive. Rewrite history, claim credit for emotional labor, then demand financial compensation for basic sibling interaction. But I'd had 3 weeks to prepare for this moment. Emma, when I was 15 and had pneumonia, you told Mom I was faking it to get out of school. When I got my first programming job, you said I was a sellout for choosing money over creativity. When I bought the duplex, you called it a waste of money. The only time you've ever supported me is when you needed something. Dad finally spoke up. Emma, is any of what Madison's saying true? Daddy, you know how Madison exaggerates. Did you pay rent or not? His voice was sharp, tired. Emma's eyes darted around the room, looking for an ally who no longer existed. The arrangement was complicated. Did you pay rent? No. The word came out as barely a whisper. Then you lied to your family for 3 years while taking advantage of your sister's generosity? Dad turned to me. Madison, I owe you an apology. We all do. Mom was crying again, but this time it seemed like shame rather than manipulation. Madison, honey, why didn't you tell us what was really happening? Because every time I tried to set boundaries, you told me family helps family. Because Emma would call you crying about how mean I was being. Because you made me feel guilty for wanting basic respect in my own home. Emma made one last attempt. I can pay you back. I'll get a job. I'll make payments. Emma, I said calmly, you have 5 days left. Use them. Uncle Tommy stood up. Emma, you can stay in my guest room for 2 weeks, but you need to find a job in an apartment. This nonsense ends now. As the family filed out, making awkward goodbyes and promises to do better, Emma sat alone on the couch, finally facing the consequences of 3 years of lies. Grace packed up her laptop and squeezed my shoulder. Madison, you should be proud. Standing up for yourself isn't easy, especially with family. 5 days later, Emma moved her belongings out of my duplex. She left behind a note that said, I hope you're happy, and a bathroom that would need professional cleaning. But for the first time in 3 years, my home was actually mine again. The truth had won, and I was finally free. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my front porch on a cool September evening in 2024, watching my new tenants carry in groceries. Sarah and Mike, both nurses at Dell Children's Hospital, who pay their rent on time, keep the property immaculate, and actually thanked me for the fresh coat of paint I had applied after Emma moved out. It's hard to believe how different everything feels now. The duplex renovation took 3 weeks and cost $4,200. New carpet, fresh paint, professional deep cleaning, and repairs to the damage Emma's parties had caused. But seeing the property restored to its original condition felt like getting my life back. When Sarah and Mike toured the unit, they were impressed with the space and immediately offered full asking price, $2,400 a month. That first rent check in my account felt like vindication. Not just for the eviction, but for everything I'd sacrificed to buy this property in the first place. I was finally getting the return on investment I'd planned for 3 years earlier. My relationship with my parents has actually improved since the truth came out. Dad calls regularly now, asking about work and my investment plans, without any hidden agenda about helping Emma. Mom still struggles with guilt about enabling Emma's behavior, but she's learning to respect the boundaries I've set. When Emma asked them to co-sign an apartment lease last month, they said no, a response that would have been unthinkable a year ago. She needs to learn to stand on her own feet, Dad told me. We should have made her do that years ago instead of expecting you to carry the load. Emma found a job waiting tables at a chain restaurant and shares a studio apartment with 2 roommates. She's paying her own rent, utilities, and expenses for the first time in her adult life. We don't speak often, but when we do, the dynamic has fundamentally changed. She can't manipulate me anymore because I've seen behind the curtain. Last month, she actually apologized. Not the fake manipulative apology designed to get something, but a real acknowledgement of what she'd done. Madison, I know I can't undo the lying or the damage. I was scared and selfish, and I made you the villain in my own story to avoid taking responsibility. You didn't deserve that. It wasn't everything I needed to hear, but it was a start. My relationship with Alex has deepened through the crisis. She stood by me during the worst of Emma's manipulation campaign and helped me see that setting boundaries wasn't cruel, it was necessary. We've talked about moving in together next year, maybe buying a house that could be our primary residence, while the duplex continues generating rental income. The biggest change is how I think about generosity. I used to believe that being a good person meant saying yes to every request for help, especially from family. Now I understand the difference between helping someone and enabling them. Real help creates independence. Enabling creates dependence. I've started investing in a second property, a small house in Mueller that I'll renovate and rent out. The down payment came from 6 months of duplex rental income, the income I should have been collecting all along. By next year, I'll own 2 cash-flowing properties instead of one that drained my savings. To everyone listening to this story, here's what I learned. Boundaries aren't walls you build to keep people out. They're foundations you build to keep yourself strong. You can't help someone by sacrificing your own stability, and you can't build healthy relationships on guilt and obligation. Family isn't about who shares your DNA. It's about who respects your worth and supports your growth. Some of my closest relationships now are with people like Alex, Jennifer, and Aunt Grace, who saw my value when my own sister was treating me like an ATM. If someone in your life is taking advantage of your generosity, you're not helping them by enabling the behavior. You're teaching them that manipulation works and kindness is weakness.
Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their choices. I spent 3 years trying to save Emma from her own decisions, and all I accomplished was delaying her growth while damaging my own financial future. The moment I stopped enabling her, she was forced to become responsible for herself. That's not cruelty, that's real love. My duplex is thriving, my family relationships are honest for the first time in years, and I'm building the financial independence I always dreamed of, not despite setting boundaries, but because of them. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonates with you, if it helps you think about your own boundaries or the people you choose to help, I'd love to know. Hit that subscribe button and join our community. Let's keep talking about what it really means to help the people we love. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say no. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.